Hi, this is Caroline at the Noble Thread. Welcome to this tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to do the long and short stitch to obtain a smooth appearance or a ruffled appearance. The smooth you would want in the petal and the ruffled in a bird. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to be using 2 strands of crewel wool so that you can see better. So for the smooth petal, I've placed a row of split stitches in order to get a smooth edge. So I come up with my thread about 2/3 of the way down the petal, and I place my first stitch in the center of the petal, tucking the end neatly around the split stitch edge. That will count as my first long stitch. Then what I like to do is I like to fill one side and then the other. So next to that first long stitch, a little bit more than halfway down the stitch, I'm going to place a short stitch. And I repeat again, working my way along the petal, a long stitch, and again a short. Because the petal is curved, you have to angle your stitches slightly towards the center in order to follow the curve of the petal. Basically what you do is you tuck them in a little bit lower and closer to the center to create that angle. And just keep doing long and short and long and short. I'm going to finish filling up this side and then the other side, and then we'll switch to the second. So I've threaded my needle with a slightly lighter color thread, and again, for the sake of the video, I'm going to be using 2 strands so you can see better. So I come up about halfway in the center, in the middle of this space here, and I'm going to plant my needle about a little bit more than halfway up my first long stitch. And then for my short stitch, what I'm going to do is do a stitch that is the same length as the one I just did and plant it a little bit more than halfway up the short stitch. And again, a long stitch. And then a short stitch. So what's really important here for you to obtain a smooth appearance in your leaf or your petal is that you follow the angle of the stitches in the previous row. So if I'm going to follow the angles here, I'm really gonna have to angle my stitch this way. If I don't, I'm going to end up with something that doesn't look as smooth. Now that could be a design choice for you. For example, you could use that technique as we're going to see in the bird. So again, and I just alternate long and short and long and short. I'm going to finish this side, the other, and switch to the third color. I've threaded my third color, and this time I'm going to repeat the process of putting stitches, but they're all going to end at the bottom edge of my petal. So really we will have stitches of different length, the same way we had at the beginning. And I just make sure that I respect the angle of the stitches in the previous row. I'm going to finish the other side. Before we move on to the way to stitch the bird, I just want to point out that it is okay for you to go back and say, you know, I think there's not enough blending here. and to go ahead and place an extra stitch to increase the blending. Of course, yeah, maybe it's not the most desirable way of achieving blending, but I think really, like Julia Child said in her videos, when she drops a bit of egg or makes a mistake, you're alone here embroidering. No one will ever know. What people will see is the end result. So I've threaded again my darkest color, and I'm going to use the same technique. The difference here is that I did not put a split stitch edge. So in order to, let's say, stitch this imaginary wing, if this were to be a wing, I'm going to use the same technique and go 2/3 of the way down and place a first stitch, which will be my long stitch. But this time, I'm not really going to try to make the edge even. My stitches are still going to be aligned in the first row, and I am going to stitch following the curve of whatever the object that I'm stitching is. So long and short, long and short, long and short. And you notice I'm not really worrying about the edge as much. I finished filling up both sides, again, not respecting the edge, really not caring very much whether it is absolutely smooth. I threaded another color, 2 strands again, just for the sake of the video. If you are stitching, I mean, you can use 2 strands if you want to, but you get more detail with just 1 strand. I'm going to go basically halfway down. I'm going to start at the center and go up my first long stitch a little bit more than half way up. Now the difference in this stitch and in the previous stitch is really that you're not going to respect the angles, and that's really what creates the ruffled appearance. And there's not really much more to it. And here you go, really, I mean, you really don't respect the angles, and you make sure to go way above the edge. And again here, I really don't care whether you go back and add some stitches in order to make things look better. Look at what you're doing and judge what you're doing, and go back and add a stitch if necessary to increase the ruffling. I'm going to finish this side and meet you for the last color. I finished stitching. You see how it's just spreading out, like the bird has just ruffled its wings after taking a bath or something. I've threaded the 3rd color, again 2 strands for the sake of the video, and I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process. So I'm at the bottom edge, so all the stitches are going to stop at that edge, and I'm going to fill up my space, trying to not create anything aligned. And it's a lot easier when you're on the 3rd row. See, I'm just filling up and going over the edge in an uneven way. Before I leave you, I just wanted to show you the effects in action in my latest design at 3:30, a single bird. Right here, the long and short in a smooth fashion. I used only one strand of crewel wool, of course, throughout the flower. And right here, the long and short, in a disorganized fashion to create the ruffled bird. I want you to keep in mind when you do stitch objects that use the long and short stitch, that your stitches have to be proportional in length to the size of the object. So if you note, they're significantly shorter for the bird. One last word about the bird. When you ruffle the feathers, you want them to ruffle out from the neck, around the bottom of the belly, over the wing a little bit, and on top of the back and the crest. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and please visit us online at thenoblethread.com to see this design and many others. Thank you.